Assalamu alaikum listeners, welcome back to another edition of the Future Show, looking at all things careers and education in our town. I'm Joaria Tanvir and we have an exciting edition prepared of Lockdown Reflections. We're first going to be joined by members of the student executive body from Chiltern High School for Boys, Osama, Zafine and Faraznel, who will be sharing their reflections with Miss Mohammed, head of Key Stage 3 English at Challney Boys. After the break, we're going to be joined by my co-host, Amma Razem, who will be joined with the Year 9 Pupil Council of Chiltern Academy, Cleo, Hassan, Labika and Yasin, along with Mr. Bell, Assistant Head Teacher at Chiltern Academy. I have to say I am super impressed with all the students from Challney Boys and Chiltern Academy for coming onto radio and speaking so confidently and sharing their honest and personal reflections of lockdown. I remember my first show I did going back a few months now with Amma and how nervous I was. So hats off to all the students from Challney Boys and Chiltern Academy. And a thank you to Miss Mohammed and Mr. Bell for joining us once again on the Future Show. Just to give you guys a little taster, there are a lot of great things that we are going to hear from the students in their own words. We hear the students recognise and appreciate the school environment and facilities, as well as having gained a much deeper appreciation for the teachers and the importance of having that interaction and the impact that has on their learning. As happy as they are to be back in school, they also tell us about the vital skills they gained during lockdown that they can carry forward in their studies. We also hear the students express their gratitude to the support received from the local community and charities for providing them with resources to help aid their learning. We also hear about some amazing projects that the students have done this past year or are planning on doing for the remainder of this year. So definitely a good show coming up. I am heading over to Miss Mohammed and the Challney Boys student executive body now, Osama, Zafine and Faraznel.
Hello, student executives. Thank you very much for coming and joining me today on this special interview. I just want to say a massive thank you for allowing me to question you about your experiences during the lockdown and how you experience this as a learner. So thank you very much. Osama, I wanted to come to you firstly. How did you engage in learning during the lockdown period?
So the lockdown was very tough, especially the first lockdown. Now you see, with the first lockdown, the teachers were shocked. They tried their best in sending out work on Google Classroom and helping us as much as possible. Due to the circumstances, this wasn't as scheduled as they would have pleased. The teachers were as responsive as they could be, and they tried their best to send all the resources out. However, in the second lockdown, the teachers were more prepared and they were ready for this new lockdown. They ensured that everything was scheduled as was sent out on time. So essentially, it put me in the position where I had to wake up at 7:30 just to get onto my laptop, sign in to form, and be ready for the day. And to be fair, some people may say this is a burden, but I enjoyed it as the teachers made sure that home learning was just like school, and they made sure that we didn't miss out on any education. Even though I was waking up very early, I didn't mind it, and I'm happy that the teachers and the students collaborated with each other to make sure that they did the best job they could.
Thank you very much, Osama, for that. That's really insightful. I like how you said that teachers were very responsive. I think, from my personal opinion, I think that that was definitely something that was very apparent. I think that everyone was on board and they were very willing to adapt to these new circumstances. So it's really great to hear that from your perspective, and that is what you received also. So that brings me on nicely to Zafine, actually. I wanted to ask you, what parts of being at school have you missed when learning at home?
Now, there are many parts of being within the school environment which I really appreciate and I really love, which I didn't quite get the same when I was in lockdown. Now, first of all, I love the social aspect of being in school. I love to be able to see my friends all the time and interact with them. And I think that also plays a big part in my learning. They are what make my learning even more fun, and that is how learning should be. And in addition, when I've got my friends with me in my classroom and in my working environment, it motivates me and it pushes me to keep on carrying on and push forward, which I couldn't quite get when I was completely independent on my own. I didn't have the same amount of competition. I couldn't see my friends getting through their essays and getting through their questions, and not not having that sort of reduced my drive a little bit to learn and get through all the work, because having my friends around me is what really helped. And to continue on with that, having a teacher in front of you, explaining things, explaining questions, like the internet is a fantastic place, but nothing can replace a teacher. There is nothing quite like a teacher in the way that they can help you and support you. Having that relationship with your teacher, and it's something which just helps so massively with your learning. And I really did miss having my teacher in front of me, hearing their voice and the way that they speak and the way that they can utilize the whiteboard and use the facilities. I felt deprived of these type of things.
Thank you for sharing that, Zafine. I mean, listening to you, that was very, very heartfelt. What I can say is that from this experience, there's a lot of positives we can take out of it. And I think one of them is that a lot of students being back at work, I think I've heard them really understand the value of a teacher. And there's something about being at school that cannot be captivated in any other way, shape, or form, particularly at home. Now, there may be some students that did prefer that, but there are fundamental things that are also missing, which is having that teacher interaction, having that student interaction. So that's really, really interesting to hear. Thank you for sharing that. It brings me on to my next question, Zafine, actually. Are there aspects of learning at home that you would like to see continue now that schools have reopened?
Yes, you're precisely right that there being within the lockdown, it did definitely make me appreciate the school environment more. It did make me appreciate my friends more and my teachers so much more. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't any benefits or any advantages that I felt that I had when I was also learning at home. Now, I think one key thing that I took away from learning at home was building up my independent learning. And that is something which I don't just have to take while I was in the lockdown, but now that we've returned to school, I can take my independent learning here. And this is an incredible skill to be able to have, to be able to get on with work, regardless of the fact that nobody else is around you doing any work. Get on with work, regardless of whether you're having the support from the teacher or not. You've increased your drive, you've increased your willingness to just get on with something. And I think that's one thing that is really built up within me. And of course, I've talked to many other friends, and they also agree that now it's made them really, really independent. And I think that's a really, really beautiful thing that we've got from learning in the lockdown over the past almost year. And another thing is that the school put in a lot more effort and time and money into getting us even more resources to help us with our learning, especially again during the lockdown. But these resources, such as GCSE pods, such as TASMI, such as Collins Connect, online revision guides on Caboodle, you can utilize all of these beyond just the lockdown to continue to aid us in our learning. And these are especially helpful to possibly children from more disadvantaged backgrounds who, when they're at home, they may not have access to revision guides and things like that. But the school was coming in and giving that to us and being able to have something to substantiate our learning. So I think, again, that was a beautiful thing that the school did for us, and we can still use that beyond the lockdown. And I definitely will keep on engaging with it. So I think it's been a fantastic thing overall.
That's really, really great to hear, actually. You touched on independent learning, and I think one of those things about independent learning is that it was refined. I think, again, the appreciation for it and the skills that you've learned more so during the lockdown period obviously has been heightened for you all, and that sounds like you've been using that a lot. The experience has been great for you all. So I think there's a lot of positives I'm hearing, and that's really, really great. Added to which, the use of technology sounds like it's heightened as well, particularly for educational purposes, in which that's great. I know that schools were very much invested in these technological advancements to support and aid the delivery of lessons. So that's really, really great that you've touched on that, and thank you for sharing. Osama, I had another question for you actually. When schools did reopen, what did you look forward to the most?
I mean, I missed everything about school. School is just a great place. The atmosphere just makes you want to learn and learn and learn. Something which I really missed was meeting my friends. Now, you see, being stuck at home, obviously, family time is great and all, but you see, friends are friends. And now, missing out on learning with my friends and playing football with them at lunchtime, it does impact you a lot, especially when it's for a long period of time. And seeing my friends really puts joy into me. And I was really happy. And that's why I look forward to school. I also liked the real life teaching. So the teacher is one to one with you rather than from a screen. And that also heightens your grades to make sure you get those grade 8s and 9s. I mean, learning from home was also a challenge, but learning from school made me realize how important a teacher really is, and that missing out on school is actually puts a lot of upsets and downfalls on your grades. I also enjoyed the teaching atmosphere. I liked when a teacher was asking me questions, and I liked when my peers would also ask questions to me and to the teacher, and I would get that response, that feedback, and I really enjoyed that. One more thing was the clubs after school. I missed playing with my friends, I missed learning new activities, and just the overall feel of school.
Thank you for sharing that, Osama. Needless to say, it sounds like you were very, very happy to come back. And you've definitely been in good spirits. And I've seen all the lovely things you all, as a student executive panel, have been doing. So I can see that you've definitely utilised your time very, very well. And it's glad to have you all back. And it's glad to be teaching you all again. And it is an absolute pleasure because, if anything, being back in school, it also has been a great experience for myself as well, because it is different teaching online. You know, the authenticity isn't there anymore, and again, that interaction with you guys isn't going to be the same. So I can definitely share the same testament as you. I've enjoyed being back, absolutely. For Arsenal, I had a question for you actually. In what ways did the schools or other community groups help you during the lockdown period?
Schools and other community groups helped us a lot during the whole time. The school was very supportive throughout the whole situation, making sure that they were able to replicate their school environment as much as they could during lockdown. Teachers offered live chat sessions to make sure that any students who were struggling or had any questions, they were able to ask them. Bernardo's, Luton Learning Link, and various charities also helped. They provided Chromebooks and various devices for those who are unable to access these technologies throughout these desperate times. The school also provisioned for those who are vulnerable and those parents who are key workers, making sure that their children weren't missing out on any of the learning throughout the whole time. Teachers also had various different types of technology, such as the Loom video lessons, making sure that the environment was as similar as they could to the school environment. So making sure that they're providing video lessons. And another thing I want to say, Miss Mohammed, how would you say you adapted to this during the whole lockdown situation?
Interesting. Thank you for that question. Yeah, I mean, the experience is definitely unique. There is no other way to describe it. But what we had to grasp very quickly is change and adaptation. Now, you mentioned the Loom software, and actually that's one of the things that I use with your classes in particular. Now, even though the essence of it wasn't the same, it did aid in me delivering lessons to you, but actually doing a voiceover. So adapting to that was actually quite fun. I enjoy doing that, putting the voiceovers on the PowerPoints, explaining it through. And I think that since then, I think I would still use Loom in different ways for revision purposes. But again, I think it's about the developing world. And I think as we develop, as we grow older, we learn that there's so many things that we can adapt to. And I think being resilient is one of the main things that came out of this for a teacher, for a student, and for everyone else that was supporting you all in learning. And it was an absolute privilege because, if anything, you guys are an exceptional bunch of students, and the sky is honestly the limit for you all. Based on that, Frasnel, it's really interesting having you guys all here, because I know you have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Okay, and I know that you student executives have been putting a lot of projects together. Is there anything in particular you can share with us today that has been quite innovative?
The student executives were working very hard throughout the whole remote learning situation. We've done various different projects which are all documented on the student executive Twitter account, but I would like to highlight on one project in particular, which was our remote learning day in the life video. The video was designed to show what an ideal remote learning experience like, starting from the waking up all the way to ending the day off. This allowed students to be motivated and feel like they weren't left behind, showing them that they were able to study throughout the whole period. And this meant that students were able to feel as if they were, students were able to feel supported throughout the whole time.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. So many exciting projects. I have heard about your student executive Twitter handle, actually. And for those who are listening today, it's Challney Boy Exec. So please get following. They have a tremendous amount of content on there from the perspective of learners. And I think that's really innovative, because I think it's great for the community to see how much work you're putting into the development of your education. And again, giving us an insight from your day-to-day lives at school. So that's absolutely fantastic. Zafine, I know that you wanted to mention something in particular. So would you like to share that with us?
Yes, again, just to add on to what Farzanul was talking about with the being a student executive, there was also many sort of leadership programs that we have, and just leadership roles that we have within the classroom. For example, like one thing that we were doing with you is we were sort of leading the lessons, and we were teaching and helping the students, and it would be split between the students. For example, we'd have Osama doing the Wall of Fame. You'd have one person going through the slides, another person explaining quotes. And again, that's just another thing that we love to do as student executives. But again, one thing that we did sort of miss out on when we had to go into lockdown. I know we had lots of plans to do more of this student leadership within the classroom. But unfortunately, we did have to put some plans to a halt because of this, which I would say is another major thing that I did miss about being in lockdown. Because as a student executive, we were a little bit more limited in exactly what we could do. So that would be just one other thing that I would add.
That's really great to hear, actually. I know the school is very well known for the student executive roles, and, you know, having that student leadership in the classroom. I know that I've worked with you guys with that since year 9. Yeah, so I can definitely share those sentiments with you. It was definitely a difficult journey, but one that we did overcome. We came together as a team, as a community, and we worked on that. So that's really interesting to hear. It's nice to hear what parts you all have missed, because everyone has a very different take on it. So, you know, I just want to say a massive thank you for sharing those experiences with me. So I'm going to pass over to you now.
Yeah, thank you, Miss. I would just like to say my thank you for letting us be on this interview and letting us advocate about how we felt about the lockdown and how we overcome the journey and the obstacles, and how great of a job the teachers were doing to help support us in this journey. And yeah, once again, I'd just like to say thank you very much.
Osama, it is an absolute pleasure to have you all on this panel and being interviewed today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Not only have I enjoyed it, but I've also learned so much more from you all, from your perspective. And I think that's important because you are all the learners. You guys are in year 10. You're on a journey. And it's important to know how you feel about this experience, but also what you've gained from it. And so far, you've said a lot of positive things, and I'm completely overwhelmed by all of the things that you've taken from this experience, and I'm really, really proud of you all. Frasno, I know that you wanted to add something, so I'll pass over to you now.
I wanted to say that all the teachers have been working very hard throughout this whole time, making sure that everyone is back to the whole environment and back to the school environment, are used to everything again, and making sure that they're catching up on if they were behind on anything. And the student executives have also been working hard throughout this time, and everything has been documented on the student executive Twitter account mentioned earlier by Ms. Mohammed. And I want to say a thank you to everyone who was involved throughout the whole period, making sure that no one was left behind and everyone was able to study throughout the whole period.
Thank you, Frasno. Thank you very much for your kind words. And I'm sure I speak for the whole staffing body, every single teacher in the educational sector, that it is an absolute pleasure, an absolute pleasure. And added to that, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. Until next time, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much to Miss Mohammed and Challney Boys. We are heading off to a break now where we're going to be joined by Chiltern Academy. Listeners, welcome back to the feature show. I'm Jawaria Tanvir, and we're joined on this show with students of Challney Boys and Chiltern Academy, telling us in their own words what their experience of lockdown has been. Before the break, we heard from the brilliant Miss Mohammed, head of Key Stage 3 English at Challney Boys, speaking with members of the Challney Boys student executive body, Osama, Zafine and Farazanel, giving us a really great insight of lockdown. We're now joined with Amma Aslam, who's having a conversation with Mr. Bell, assistant head teacher at Chiltern Academy, and members of the Year 9 Pupil Council, Cleo, Hassan, Labika and Yasin, sharing with us how proud they are to be students of Chiltern Academy, the support they've received this past year, and the many exciting projects they have taken part in with local charities and for the local community. I'm heading over now to Amma.
I want to start off with Mr. Bell, who you recently joined us actually on Inspire FM, and it's really pleasing to have you back on. Now, you've got some students there to share their experiences of lockdown and what the past year has meant to them. Introduce us to who you've got there, Mr. Bell.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it is great to be back again talking on the radio station. And firstly, I want to thank Inspire FM for providing my pupils with the opportunity to talk about Chiltern Academy and their experiences during lockdown. Our pupil council consists of 8 members, 4 from year 7 and 4 from year 8. But we have 4 year 9 council members here, and I just want to go around the table and just let them introduce themselves. Cleo, if I start with you.
Yeah, I'm Cleo, I'm in year 9 and I'm chair of the Pupil Council.
I'm Hassan, I'm in year 9 and I am part of the communications.
I'm Labika and I'm in year 9 and I'm the secretary of the Pupil Council.
I'm Yasin, I'm in year 9 and I'm part of communications.
Brilliant, thank you guys.
Okay, brilliant. We'll start off, thank you, Mr. Bell. We'll start off a question for Labika to begin with. Actually, lockdown's been a quite a challenging time for everyone. But in amongst all the challenges, there have been lots of positives. How have you and your friends found lockdown?
So lockdown has been a different experience for each and every single one of us. Some people have gone through bereavement and had a tough and challenging time, whereas some people have enjoyed their time in lockdown. However, even though there was some negativity, there was also lots of positivity. My experience in lockdown was positive. This was the time where I learned new skills, including baking cakes and cookies. I also started to connect with people better than I could, using online resources and actually learning to take out time for myself, which I didn't really do before. My friends and peers have had the same experience, and the two common ones are being able to communicate better online and taking out time for ourselves. Many of us also learned how to use new tools online due to remote learning. An example of this is a website we used in engineering called Onshape. It was a new website for most of us, and we learned how to use it for our lessons.
I also started to learn different languages, like my mother's native tongue called Igala, German, and Japanese. It was really interesting, and I've made lots of linguistic links between Latin-derived languages.
That's absolutely brilliant. Labika, what's it been like since the schools returned a few weeks back after lockdown?
Returning back to school was a big change, as many people did have difficulties communicating with people face to face and find it much easier to talk behind a screen. The biggest challenge I personally faced and many of my classmates faced was remembering what we learned in school. We have some positive things about coming back to school, and they were able to share our stories with other people and ease ourselves, and most of us had the same experiences, and we were able to express our feelings. Overall, we were happy as we were out of home and were able to try and get back to normal after lockdown.
I also want to add that when we first came back, lots of the lessons were mainly focused around RRR. This stands for Review, Revisit, Revise, and is when we have a lesson which is solely based on past topics. Moreover, we recently started having one-to-one tutoring sessions to expand our knowledge on subjects, as well as refresher sessions to help support learning and go over topics we may have forgotten. Also, extracurricular activities have recently resumed, and Chiltern Academy offers a wide range of clubs for students to take part in.
A question for Yassine. You're all members of the Pupil Council. Can you tell me how you were formed, a little bit about the background of the Pupil Council?
Yes, so the Pupil Council was voted in a similar way to the general elections. The pupils who wanted to run for school council wrote manifestos, and they were voted into the top 100 by members of staff. The school's senior leadership team reviewed all 100 of these manifestos, and they were shortlisted into the top 16. The top 16 were announced and had to participate in debates, in assemblies, and Q&As from pupils. Next, the shortlisted pupils began campaigning, and the candidates had to gain supporters. On December 12, 2019, all pupils voted for their candidate, and a week later, the top 8 were revealed and presented as the Pupil Council. Through an internal vote, we then voted for the pupil chair, who is Cleo.
I would also like to add that it was great to be voted in as a member of the Pupil Council by my fellow peers. I personally felt a sense of pride and responsibility to represent our school's student voice.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, I think I'd like to come back to that. That sounds really, really exciting. Hassan, I know that the group is newly formed, the Pupil Council is newly formed, and of course lockdowns had an impact upon how you can go about doing your projects. But are you able to speak about some of the projects that you and the school have been involved in over the past year?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the year, we as a council all came up with an A to Z list of charity events. And this essentially means that we came up with a charity event we could run, beginning with all the letters of the alphabet. Examples of these were non-uniform days and competitions such as estimating the amount of sweets in a jar. We also have a year-long project, which is the Sky Garden. This is our rooftop garden area, which we want people to go to and relax. And we have partnered up with JJ Rattigan, who are helping us to plan this. Furthermore, we have run a competition for designs of the Sky Garden within the school, and the winning design will actually be used.
Personally, I'm extremely proud of the teachers at our school who have worked tirelessly to ensure that there are no gaps in pupils' learning during lockdown. They handled the situation really well at such short notice. As the voice of the student body, we felt that we had to reward our teachers, so we organised the staff awards, where students were given the opportunity to vote for teachers who they believed had aided the students best in their learning whilst at home.
Hassan, what's the Pupil Council's plan for the summer term if we're now looking ahead to having the opportunity to run more of these projects?
Okay, so recently we presented to the school governing body, and we essentially told them about everything we have done while we've been elected as the Pupil Council. Overall, we plan to run 3 charity events this half term. One of them is assist the head teacher for the day, and this is where pupils will pay money and a student from each year group will be chosen at random to assist Mr. Douglas for a day. And this would consist of things like going to his meetings and so on. Furthermore, we also plan to have an ice cream day and a non-uniform day, with the proceeds from both events going to our school charity, which is the L&D Hospital Helipad Appeal.
Ice cream day. I definitely want to learn more about that one. Now we'll come back to that. Hassan, you've spoken there really well about charity and the number of charitable initiatives that the school are going to be getting involved in, and of course giving back to the community is vital, especially with the difficulties that people are facing out there. Tell us a little bit more about why charity is so important to Chiltern Academy.
Okay, so I think that the majority of the school's events are based on charity and giving to the community. And we have one main school charity, like I mentioned before, which was the L&D Helipad Appeal. However, we do also donate to other charities such as the Luton Food Bank. And we regularly organize charity events, and the money goes towards our main charity. Examples of events we have run for other charities include the Shoebox Appeal. Pupils brought in old toys, basic toiletries, stationery, and books to read, all packed it into shoeboxes. These would subsequently be delivered to young children in the world who could really use a small gift like that. We also had a harvest festival in the autumn term. Pupils would bring in food, and this was donated to the Luton Food Bank. We also ran this as a house competition to encourage pupils to bring lots of donations to give a person some much needed food.
Charity is not just led by our school pupils, our teachers also contribute. An example of this was the 12-hour night shift run that raised £1,600. Staff had to continuously run on a treadmill in a mask through the night for 12 hours to mirror the night shift of our NHS staff. We were really proud that our teachers could give up their busy time for a notable cause and help us edge closer to our fundraising goal of £4,000.
Cleo, I understand the school has a huge passion for engineering. What types of things do you learn?
So engineering is mostly divided up into the practical side and the theoretical side. In theory, we learn to use CAD software, such as TechSoft 2D Design, Circuit Wizard, and Onshape to create and simulate circuits and 3D print materials and parts. We also work with CAM processes. Our school has a richly furnished engineering department with sanding machines, pillar drills, laser cutters, and lots of other integrated tools. We've also covered engineering in real life, which looks at civil engineering here in Luton, specifically the works going on around the Luton airport, and with the prestigious engineering company Arup. Leonardo also came to the school to give a talk to students about their company, who offers a range of engineering opportunities such as in electronics, software, and systems. On the practical side of things, we have created light boxes from scratch. We did all the work from designing and researching light boxes, assessing materials, measuring materials, sanding and sawing down wood, printing designs onto plastic, fully constructing the light boxes, and then creating a full evaluation at the end.
Essentially, we followed the manufacturing process of an actual product to give us a taste of what it would be like in product design.
Listeners, you're joining us here for the Future Show on Inspire FM. You're listening to voices of the Pupil Council at Chiltern Academy, one of the high schools in Luton. We've been hearing from Cleo, Yassine, Labika and Hassan, and as well as very importantly, Mr. Bell, who's brought this all together, and a friend of the radio station. I want to direct another question to you, Cleo. You know, it's been such a difficult year for young people, especially, and the uncertainty that comes with going into school, online learning. You know, being told to study from home. And you've paid tribute there, and it was really pleasing to hear that you paid tribute to your teachers around you. But what are some of the things that really make your school great? Tell the listeners what makes Chiltern Academy a great place to be a part of.
Yeah, so one thing I believe that makes our school great is the sheer amount of pupils we have from different backgrounds and the strong diversity that's integrated in Chiltern Academy. This means that we always have new and varied perspectives, a vast talent pool, and incredible skill sets in the school. I also think that as a school, we have lots of spirit and are able to pull together as a really tightly knit community, and we get through obstacles together. A great example of this being the nationwide lockdown, where staff were working tremendously hard to provide lessons and resources for our learning. We actually wanted to show our appreciation for them, and we hosted a virtual Chiltern Academy Staff Awards to celebrate them. The amazing facilities which support the pupils' learning significantly include our music recording studio, the fitness suite, the robotics rooms, the IMAX suite, and a lot of other exceptional areas around the building truly make our school notable. Also, we have a school dog. His name is Flynn. He's very supportive and he plays a major role in the mental well-being of plenty of our students.
Brilliant, thank you for that. Yassine, what would you say you're most proud of about your school? Because it really comes across, I'm sure listeners would agree, it really comes across that you are all very passionate about Chiltern Academy and being a part of this relatively new school. What is it in particular that you're proud of?
I'm mostly proud of the way our school organised and handled our return back to school and the way they planned to make us feel comfortable and get back to normal. Our school did really well in keeping all of our students safe during this worldwide pandemic, but made sure that it didn't affect the learning of pupils. One way the school did this was by keeping pupils in year group bubbles in order to keep the year groups separate, which was successful in serving its purpose. A one-way system has been implemented to control the flow of traffic, and we have seating plans in place to reduce transmission. All these measures certainly do keep us all safe and help make sure that we can get back on track and strive for success. Additionally, the push and uptake for extracurricular activities is also very impressive. As a school, we encourage every student to take part in at least 2 house competitions and go to at least 1 extracurricular activity per week. A large majority of the pupils are going to extracurricular clubs before school, at lunchtime, and after school. Clubs like basketball, badminton, cricket, art, STEM, French, dance, debate, fitness, music, newspaper, psychology, anime, table tennis, and choir are just a few of the extracurricular activities that most students have been attending since March.
That is thank you for that, Yassine. That's quite an immense list. A general question, I'll open this out to you all, or Mr. Bell there as well. But we were speaking off air, and I mentioned that 2 years ago when you were in year 7 and the school was at its temporary location at the York Street venue, a few doors away from Luton Food Bank where I was working, and I remember coming in and speaking to yourselves and seeing all the bright-eyed, very keen young year 7s that had just started, and we were having discussion about how you know, 2 years on, and you really become now, you're the, you know, the year nines amongst you are the eldest now in your school. But charity and the community seems to be such an important part of your values, and it's very much embedded in everything you do. Who wants to tell me a little bit more about any particular causes that are special to them?
Do you want to go, Cleo?
Yes, I think that charities that support the mental health of young people in Luton especially are really important, especially in the current situation. You know, everyone's been through a lot of different situations, and I think it's really important that we have trusted adults checking in on young people, because at this point in time, we need to make sure that everyone is in the right mental state and just keep moving forward and hoping for a better future.
Brilliant.
No,
Well,
I
sorry,
remember,
Mr. Bell. Yeah, go ahead.
I remember when I visited Chiltern Academy in the old building, and there was a club going on in the temporary building. I think it was cheerleading, and they were doing a sort of pose where it was safe and there was mats all around, but you know, the building just wasn't fit for purpose. You know, pupils are putting their hands through ceiling tiles and trying to work in the most smallest of environments. And you know, I was just so itching for the children to come into this wonderful building and experience some of the learning experiences they've had so far. And one thing that, you know, the Pupil Council are so good at is driving change. You know, they really want to make sure that this building is right for the pupils who are currently here, but also for the pupils who are potentially going to be joining in 2022, 2023, and so forth. Lots of things that go on and around our school, and the things that we, you know, we post on social media and things that we let out in the community. Yes, a lot of it comes from our staff, but it is driven by the ambitious, you know, enthusiastic, wonderful children that we do here have at Chiltern Academy. And the pupils in front of me are just a small selection of those children.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I want to just pick up on some of the things that were mentioned earlier on, and for no one in particular, but who wants to tell me a little bit more about the night shift run? Because I remember seeing that on social media. So this is where teachers ran through the night to raise money for the helipad appeal. Is that right? Who wants to tell me about that experience and what it means to see your teachers get involved in something that really is quite demanding and challenging, but ultimately is for a good cause?
For me, I was actually really proud of the staff because they took time out of their busy schedule, and they actually took the time to have a 12-hour night shift run, and it actually raised £1,600. And the 12 hours that they ran for, we specifically chose that time because it mirrored the night shift of the NHS staff.
And it was just fantastic to see the staff in and around school, you know, coming together. And there was all kinds of running abilities. You know, some people who run outside of school for a club, and then there's some that haven't ran for years, you know, for a long, long time. And they just took part. And it was real camaraderie and sort of really good teamwork. But and I don't know if anyone's ever tried running with a mask on. It is very, very difficult. And it was just fantastic that they had fun. You know, they raised money, but they also raised awareness for the fantastic NHS staff that we've got, not only in this town, but also in and around the country. And, you know, £1,600 is such an amazing feat for a school like ours. You know, we've only got 690 pupils on roll, but we've raised £1,600, which is brilliant. And I was just so proud that the staff got involved in that achievement.
Rightly so, and of course I recall for Luton Food Bank you made a similarly high donation as well, which is all the more incredible given that you are a smaller school than some of the others. I think it was Hassan that mentioned assist a head teacher for the day. We've only got a few minutes left, but there's some really great ideas in there. Assist a head teacher, ice cream day. Let's start off with assist a head teacher, because that sounds like Mr. Douglas is going to get a day off. Is that how it works?
Yeah. Okay. So what we're planning to organise is that soon we want pupils to come, and they're gonna have to pay a certain amount of money, and they'll be entered into like almost like a raffle, where the prize is that for a day they'll get to assist Mr. Douglas for a day. And this would be for things like going to his meetings and just generally helping him out during the day.
Brilliant. And the ice cream day, is that fairly self-explanatory? Eat as many ice creams as you can, bring in ice creams. How does it work?
Yeah, so what we wanted to do was raise money in a fun and creative way. So we thought during a nice summer's day, we'd just buy a lot of ice cream and sell it to the pupils so that they can enjoy and have ice cream in the sun, and all the donations would go to charity. So it'd be for a good cause, as well as letting the students have some fun.
And I think it's that, isn't it? They're trying to have a fun time and just eat ice cream, really, if I'm being honest.
Brilliant. We're coming up to the end of this segment here as well. I just want to very briefly ask you one thing that has sort of stuck in your mind over the past year. Who wants to tell me one thing that they've sort of really learned from the past year? Just putting it out there, just one sentence. Anything?
I've learned how to stay together as a team, and specifically talking about my school, where this pandemic, our school has taught us to stay together and make sure that we understand everybody's feelings and get out through this problem, working as a team and understanding different people's situations.
Does anyone else want to try that?
I think also reading.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more.
I think also reading enjoyable books and books that you take interest in is also a really nice thing to do. I think that when you just take time out of your day and spend some time reading, you get some time to reflect. You can almost take yourself out of your current situation and just take yourself almost on an adventure by reading. And I think it's a really good thing to do. And I also think family as well. I think most people have more than ever learnt the importance of family. I know that I value my family a lot more than even before, even though I always loved them. I think it's really important for everyone to just have people that they love and they like to be around, and a place that they can call home.
Brilliant. We're gonna have to hold it there. Some absolutely wonderful answers there. Listeners, you've been listening to Cleo, Yassine, Labika and Hassan from Chiltern Academy. You've also had the joy of the quite wonderful Mr. Bell joining us again. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.